This is gonna be freaking awesome!
Well, here it is, all set up, plugged in, and ready to go. So we've got it, mouse and keyboard in the USB. We've got HDMI into the back of this TV, which we're going to use as the monitor. So, do you want to do the honours and see what happens? Oh, we've not we've not flicked the switch on at the
That
back.
would help.
I knew there was a reason. Right, so
No,
that's
it
now on.
It should go. Yes.
Right, cool. So, we just need to figure out which HDMI port we've put it into. Oh, we're getting
HDMI 1.
we're getting a motherboard. There we go.
Oh, there we go. So it knows where the RAM is.
Yeah, it knows where the RAM is. It knows. So we've got the RAM is set to 4,800 megahertz at the moment. So we need to sort that out because it is capable of 6,400. I believe that's what that means in the brackets. It's registering 32 gig of memory in total. Processor speed is 4,800, so 4.8 gigahertz. Yeah, it's registering the correct motherboard name and the correct processor, so there's nothing dodgy going on, which you wouldn't expect. It knows about the M.2 drive, which is great. Everything's so the mouse is working. So yeah, we're looking good with the USB setup. Even though the one plugged into is directly onto the motherboard, so we'll know that better when we try to plug something into these top ports at some point. So what we need to do then, fantastic tuning. So we need to go in and set everything up. So yeah, we'll figure out how to do all that, because I've not dealt with this BIOS setup before, so there's going to be some learning to do on the job, and yeah, we're just going to follow some instructions of how to get everything set how we want. And then we have a USB stick with Windows 11 Pro, which we will then be able to install. Okay, so we've just saved the settings that we've had there.
F11.
F11 for boot options. We've got our USB stick in with Windows 11 bootable saved on there. We're going to have to figure out whether or not we were quick enough to press F11 at the post screen. Oh yes, it is happy. So we're going to follow the process now to set up Windows, and then we can test the system, make sure everything's running as it should be. Okay, so I'm just back inside the case at the moment. So little update then. What happened? So we switched it on, as you saw. We went to install Windows. Ooh, so we hit some hurdles, which is normal when you're building your own PC. So don't be scared if you hit some hurdles. So first of all, the system was a bit unstable and it kept crashing. Well, it kept blue screening, should I say. We think this was because we went into the BIOS and we changed the default RAM speed, which is set to 4,800 megahertz for a DDR5. We changed that to, well, we basically turned on XMP, just left that on auto, which recognised that the RAM was capable of 6,400. Changed the speed to that, and then it wasn't happy. So we thought, well, you know, something is wrong. The blue screens were giving us exceptions about processes not being valid, or exceptions on processes. So we think it might have been that the processor model was too new for the BIOS that was installed on the motherboard. So we did a BIOS flash. To do that, we went to the motherboard's manufacturer's website, typed in the model number, went to the download section, selected the BIOS with the latest version, avoiding any beta or beta, however you say it, or however you say it. I know it's beta. Avoiding any beta versions. Then we transferred this to a USB stick with a format that was formatted in FAT32, which we didn't have to hand, to be fair. So we used we reformatted one, and if you don't know, FAT32 can only be done on drives that are 32 gig and under. So what we had to do is go into disk management and create a partition of less than 32 gig inside the USB, so that we could then format that partition as FAT32. We then got the driver file, which came in a zip folder. We extracted that. That was inside that was the driver itself, which was a ROM file. We then renamed that to creative.rom, put that onto the USB, and then we came around the back here. So what we did is gave power to the motherboard from the power supply unit, and if you see there, so there's some USB slots, and there's like a light grey ring around that one. If it's got light grey ring around it on ASRock, that means it is the BIOS flash port. So we inserted the USB stick into there, and then up here there's a little BIOS flashback button. We held that in for 3 seconds, and the little hole above it is has an LED behind it. So the flashing LED went on for a few minutes, and then after a few minutes it sped up. That was a good sign. And then it extinguished. That tells us it was done. So we then removed the USB, restarted the computer, and went straight into BIOS, and it was then showing the latest version of the BIOS version. So then the issues with the blue screening stopped. It was fine. We were able to proceed all the way through the installation process of Windows. Windows 11 is now installed. However, it did reset all of the settings on the BIOS back to normal, which also then put the RAM speeds back down. So we put them back up again. Now it doesn't blue screen, but it will crash. It will freeze from time to time. It doesn't take long, actually. So there's some more tweaking to do there. We're going to do some RAM testing. We're going to do some... We've checked compatibility. Everything's compatible. So the motherboard's happy with the RAM. The RAM is designed for 6,400. The CPU can take 6,400 speed from up to 192 gigs of DDR5. So everything's happy with everything in terms of on paper. It could be that we need to roll back the driver for the BIOS to a more stable, slightly older one. It could be that we need to move basically mess around with the clock speed on the RAM, or mess around with the timings. So that's like advanced, technically overclocking, although we're reducing the speed. But if you have anything other than the base rate speed on DDR5, which is 4,800 megahertz, then it is classed as overclocked. So if you take that on board, that basically means that we are in overclocking territory at the 6400, so we might need to tweak it a little bit, go down a little bit. Yes, it kind of does stink because it makes you think, well, why have I paid for a stick that can do that speed when I'm not going to get it? Well, you don't always get that depending on how happy everything sort of works with each other. There are some more checks I can do, like a RAM test to make sure the RAM itself is okay. We could swap them around into other channels to make sure it's nothing to do with the socket. But yeah, we're going to figure that out and see what the best speed we can get. We might even use some tuning software to see if we can get anything to happen, because there is quite a lot that you can change in terms of the latency timings and the actual speed that you want it to run at. So there's a lot that you can get wrong, and it's too much to go into on this video. But I might see if there's we get any decent results from like a piece of software or a tuning program first before I start messing with it, you know, in more detail. But then there's the third element, which is the changing the voltages, which you can change voltages to every element of the RAM. So there's a lot of variables there, and you know, if you don't get them all right, it's not going to be happy. So anyway, why have I got this case off? Well, the other thing we've noticed is that the fans only operate at low, which is probably about 40% power, medium, which I guess is about 60 to 70, and high, which I guess is about 90 to 100. Because they only operate from this remote control, which came with the case. It's the fan controller, the RGB controller. So the only thing that's plugged into the motherboard in terms of fans is actually not a fan. It is the liquid CPU cooler. So the motherboard fan controller suite thinks that it's a fan spinning at about 5,000 RPM, but it's just the pump. But that's fine. You can kind of designate it as a pump, and you can choose, you know, put it on the same curve where it'll look after the temperature on whatever basis you set it, or you can just choose set profiles like silent, performance, full, or default. However, everything else is just plugged into here and not into the motherboard, so it can't do anything with the speeds. So I believe that what we're supposed to do is there's supposed to be something that comes out of here that asks for power and asks for a voltage reference or a speed control reference for the rest of the fans. Now we know there's power because we've fed power into here, so we've got a Molex there which we've plugged into. Where did we plug this into? I mean, it should be pretty easy to see, but obviously it's all sort of tidied up and tied down, so it's not so easy. Let me just place you down here. Oh, I'm zooming in unintentionally. So let's pop you there, and let's just get both of my hands going on this. So this is come from... Huh? No, we're looking at the wrong one here, aren't we? This is the power. So which bit of it is plugged into something? This. Is that plugged in? Or is that a double? What's going on there? What is that? Yes, I believe it is this. And it goes up here to the front panel. So that's not our issue. It mustn't be the Molex power. It was the other one we used, which is it's down here. It's the SATA power. So this one sort of came in from... there we go, I'm seeing it now. So it's this here. So that is the SATA power. So it makes sense that the thing next to it is going to be the reference, because that is the only side of this board that sort of has stuff hardwired in and isn't just a socket. So we're only left with these. Now where do these go? Look here. They're both not plugged into anything. Oh, there's a fan header. Now I understand why there was fan header plugs on here. I don't know what that's for, whether that's like meant to be that you can link it to another part of ARGB, it's somewhere else in the system or something like that. I don't know, but But yeah, that's a power header, so that can be plugged into the board, and if the board has a dedicated ARGB sort of power fan header, then that's the ideal thing to plug it into. So let's go around the other side and see if it does before we decide where to poke it through. So I'm going to have to take the side off. Okay, so we are inside the case. I'm inside the case with the camera, and I've asked Alex to put the edge of the case, the side of the case back on, so it's very cramped in here, but I did this for, you know, for your good. Unfortunately we can still hear the traffic outside. It's a bit of a warm day, so I've got the window open. Point being, let's use a rare use of the zoom to figure out what these headers are. I don't know what that says. Oh, addressable LED too! Look at that! We found it! The first thing we looked at! And there's the number 3. So what we want is number 1. Where's number 1? Oh, it can't... No, it's not there. See how they've got 3 pins on them? That's awesome. That was just so quick. The first thing I picked was the right thing. Well, it wasn't, because it's not number 1. I'd like to plug it into number 1, really. Will it get confused if I just plug one of them into number 2? Or is it going to know what to do? Oh, what's that there? What is that? That's a UART. UART 1. I don't know what that means. I'm not going to trust that. It's got the same configuration. Is it down here somewhere? Oh. Addressable LED 1. RGB LED. Yeah, but that's... Right, okay. So, it's going to be the addressable one that I need. So I'm going to pull that through, plug it in to that switch, to that header, and we are going to see if that will now send information to the controller to control the fan speeds, so that we can have better than just, you know, low, medium and high, because we want this thing silent when it doesn't need to be loud. Let's get that done. Okay, that's plugged in. Let's give it a whirl. So we can turn the flash off. Okay, so there are some background noises. However, I think I'm going to have to get rid of the background noises to be able to show you the comparison. Okay, so much quieter. It's whisper quiet really now, and that's with the sides off. So I've tried changing the cable to the all-in-one pump header on the board, and it didn't power the pump. Don't know why that is, so I've put it back on CPU fan 1. I've got the ARGB on a slow progressive rainbow cycle, and I've got the fan, the fan controller that controls all the other fans on a custom curve that makes it extremely quiet until it starts getting fairly warm, and then it just starts ramping up. So that is about as low as I can get it, really. I think any lower than that and it'd be off. It's on 1% pulse width modulation there. So yeah, that's the fans and the lights correctly set up. So next thing we need to do is set the RAM to a speed which is closer to the advertised speed, in such a way that it remains stable. Okay, so set the RAM speed to 6400 again, and got an instant blue screen, so it wasn't happy with that. managed to come down a touch to 6,266. So let me get into Windows. It seems okay at the moment. So I've just pressed the Windows key and R to bring up the run window. Then I've typed this into the field and I'm going to press enter. It's now going to do a little bit of a performance benchmarking activity. This is just the one that's built into Windows. Feel free to use others. So let's come back to this when it's done. Okay, so we've got an error. An error occurred while attempting to generate a report. The wait for the report generation tool to finish is timed out. Not the best. Let's try again. Well, I'm predicting it's going to fail again, because it's been about a minute and it's not done anything. So give it a few more seconds and see what happens. Yeah, there we go, failed. Okay, so plan B. Okay, so I'm just downloading, well, I've downloaded, I'm creating a bootable USB drive with memtest86 installed on there, which will do a thing. Why is this happening? Yeah. Imaging completed. So I can now restart-ish. Oh, get out of it. Exit. Close. 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 Shut down. Now I should be able to boot from USB. So I'm gonna mash F11, which little yeah, F11 for boot menu. So we're gonna oh, there's two partitions. Interesting. I'm gonna say that this I don't know now. Did it create its own partition? Is it partition 2 maybe? We're gonna find out. Oh, there we go. It's doing a thing. Oh, it's doing all the things. So I thought, as it's the RAM that's in question here, let's just test the RAM. Oh, look at this. It's like a whole little program that'll just boot from a USB. Oh, nice. It'll actually do things. Okay, so RAM benchmark. Nice. Start. Oh, 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 oh! God, that was quick. I don't understand. So we're talking about it did something. What did it do? Well, I mean, it was stepping up in bytes, and then it started megabytes per second per step size. That doesn't really tell me much. I just wanted to, you know, let's see what it. Why is it so slow? Such a slow cursor. Okay, so CPU, blah blah blah, memory, blah blah blah. Okay, so it's now sitting at. Well, it's showing the 6250. It's not the speed I chose. It was 6266, but whatever. I mean, I'm happy with that. What does start test do? Whee! It's doing a thing. Okay. We're testing everything by the looks of it. It's doing the processor at the moment. 25% pass. 33% pass. Moving inversions in an 8-bit pattern. So it's obviously doing lots of fun things to have a bit of a workout. So it kind of knows what's going on. Got temperature information, and we've got information from the processor, the RAM, and well, that's it actually, just the processor and the RAM. I mean, it's definitely putting it through some kind of a test, obviously. The RAM temperature is a stable 32 degrees. Weirdly not giving us... oh yeah, there we go. CPU temperature 38 degrees. Oh, I mean, this is practically frozen for a computer. This is lovely. Don't get me wrong, the fans are going, but I think that's because it's not fully loaded, it's not kicked in the sort of silent fan pattern, something like that. Probably, maybe. Anyway, we're 50% in. It's gone up to 40 degrees now on the CPU. It's really pushing it now. The RAM's gone up to 34. Ooh, toasty. We're doing test number 6, block move with 64-byte blocks. It's loving this one. Test 7, moving inversions, 32-bit pattern. That's some proper challenging stuff there for the average geezer. Okay. So RAM 36, CPU 42. We're doing alright. I think I'll come back when we're closer to being done. Well, here we are after very many minutes. It's just done a 5-minute sleep test. The processor's temperature did get up to 44 degrees and the RAM got up to 38. And we're just about to finish test 10. Test, oh, well, that was quick. Hammer test. What is a hammer test? That's crazy. Hammering rows. Verifying pattern. 0% complete. That is crazy. Oh, 5% complete. I think it's going to do this one in blocks of 5%. Anyway, I've just seen this. Pass 1 of 4. I feel like it's going to do, 3 more of these once the pass gets to 100%. And it's been going nearly 20 minutes already, so I didn't realise it would be this thorough. Never used this program before. On the plus side though, 0 errors. So yeah, it's not all bad. I don't know what I'm going to do if there is an error. Suppose if it passes with no errors and I can browse Windows and stuff and get into the operating system without it crashing, the next thing to do would be a real life sort of stress test for the game, just to make sure that it's happy at that speed, and if it is, I think we'll be happy with that speed because it's very close to to the maximum advertised speed. So yeah, I think we'll just go with that, but I will I mean, if this gets to 100% and then starts on pass 2 of 4, I think I'll be leaving it to finish off whilst I sleep. But yeah, I'll let you know the outcome of that. Okay, there we go, finally it has finished. Yeah, so it took 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I'll press a button and that's the summary. So it did a thing.
I'll look at the average CPU temperatures, barely.
Yeah, average CPU temperatures. And average RAM temperatures, lovely there. So, test errors, 0. Fantastic. We don't want to send a test report. So that's the test done. So now we can just move on to real world testing by doing some gaming. See how that works. Okay, so we've got very quiet fans. Bit of an ongoing issue with those. So they're connected to the chassis header, the chassis fan 3 header. Seems to be the same issue no matter which one we connect it to. It'll do what we say, but only if we disconnect it and then reconnect it. And then it starts doing the fan tune that we've set on the BIOS, or the one within the operating system. So we need to find a workaround for that, because if we restart it, it'll go back to default. I think what it's trying to do is go back to whatever the controller wants it to be on. So I don't know if there's a way of disconnecting the fan speed function from the controller, or it's got some googling to do around that, but we are stable. So this is Oblivion Remastered. So we're getting sort of 110 to 120 frames per second with all
Look at that one time.
170, 180 frames per second, and that is with ultra settings all on. However, it is only 60 Hz at 1080p, because just that's what the TV is capable of that we're using as a monitor. So it would do 4K and it would do higher refresh rates, but obviously it would probably bring the frames per second down, but you know, it'd still be reasonable, I reckon. But to say that this is the screen we're using to game with, it's more than enough, so should be some level of future-proof in there for bigger and more demanding games that we might want to play in the future. So there you go, that's what you can achieve. And I think, what was it, a saving of about £700 or more on...
Probably more, to be honest.
On parts. Yeah. So it's a success.